You're listening to Neuma, the Crossroad of Science and Enlightenment. This podcast is a place where science meets soul and healing meets hope, where the latest in science meets ancient wisdom to illuminate the path toward healing and transformation. We break through stigma and misinformation to explore the transformative power of psychedelic therapy, holistic health, and the mind-body connection. Through stories, insight, and expert conversations, we provide practical solutions to help you reclaim your mental health, embrace your spirituality, and achieve true enlightenment. Hosted by Alan Wiederhold, author of the book Walking in the Garden, Discovering God Through Psychedelics. Alan is the consummate explorer, passionate about empowering others to embrace the divinity of their true selves, as well as the founder of Neuma Health, whose mission is to restore and transform lives. Here's your host, Alan Wiederhold.
Welcome back to Neuma, Crossroad of Science and Enlightenment. Today is a special episode as I really kind of reflect on the last week of 2024. And this is kind of a special episode. This is our 10th episode. I've just, as I think back today, I just have so much gratitude. To me, the 10 it's not just a number. It's been a testament of the journey that we've kind of embarked on together. This community here that we're building each week as more people dial in and listen in. It's an interesting thing about podcasts. I remember my last one, I had learned so much about finding my voice, and my producer, Bryce Prescott, really has helped me to do that over the last couple of years. The interesting thing about podcasts, though, is that most of them, they don't even make it past the 7th episode. And then 50% of them, they kind of fade away right around that point. And then similarly, 20% of all startups fail in the first year. Yet here we are, not only in our 10th episode, but as a company, Neuma is thriving. Why? I think because we're not really just creating a business or a podcast. We're really, I think, focusing on creating a movement. See, as I was sitting here thinking this morning about the end of the year and what it was that I accomplished, or what we accomplished together, it's just crazy. I had a challenge this morning that I've been doing silently for the last few days. One of my guests had thrown down this video last week on LinkedIn that he had looked back, and he created a list of 50 people that all made a difference to him in some way, shape, or form. And he sent them all a private message on voice text. Thought that was so cool, because there are so many amazing people who have had an impact on me this year. So I've been doing that. I've been doing the same thing. I get up in the morning and I have a block of 10, and the feeling that you have when you just say thank you with nothing else in return. I was referring to a book this morning at breakfast with a dear friend, a book called Power vs. Force. And you hear a lot from Tony Robbins and others in the space that fear and gratitude cannot simultaneously exist. They can't, because it's physically impossible. They're on different frequencies. So one of the things that I found this morning and the last several mornings is that when I get up in the morning, it doesn't matter how I feel. I send a 1-minute thank you. Just, you have made such an impact on my life. And within those 10 minutes of sending those, my heart is just overwhelmingly beaming. I'm super excited about the day. And there are a lot of days that I don't get to sleep a whole lot. Last night, I think I slept for 4 hours and 1 minute, according to my Aura ring. But, again, thinking about all of these people and all of the listeners who have devoted some of their time to listening to me, to our story, and just where we're going, I want to say thank you to whoever you are, because this year has been just absolutely extraordinary. It's been filled with so many moments of growth for me personally. I found courage in places I didn't have. I've found purpose. Like I have talked about this, and again, my last show, Cost of Doing Nothing, where I really learned about imposter syndrome and overcoming that. And then what is it like to live in purpose? It all started, I think, for me way back in the beginning of the year. I belong to a club in Baltimore called the Center Club of other business owners, and we've belonged to this club for years. And for whatever reason, last fall of 23, I wanted to give back. I felt like I had taken so much from my business, my industry, and I really wanted to do something with it. I had found my voice that Bryce was helping me discover. And now I wanted to, from the relationships and the past guests that I had, I wanted to give something back. So I remember joining the Veterans Committee at our club. And I remember coming back to them and saying, hey, I have this idea. I have this idea about psychedelics and trauma for vets. And as a veteran myself and one who has trauma and found healing, I honestly didn't think they were gonna go for it, but they did. And I remember setting it all up and thinking that this was going to be the first time that I was really publicly putting myself out there in the middle of my healing journey and sharing the story of my trauma and all of these things. So, May 1st was a really big deal and kind of where it all began for me. I remember prepping for this thing on a vacation and finding some other people in the industry who were so willing to talk. They were so willing to allow me to pick brains and to have them come and present with me on that day. And they have been guests on my show. They have had an influence in my trajectory or my career path this year. And it was that experience where we planted the seeds for something bigger than ourselves. It wasn't just an event. It was a gathering. It was a gathering of community leaders. And while I thought it was just going to be about veterans and trauma, there was an individual who brought all of these amazing people to come listen. And it turned out to be a conversation around community leaders about trauma and healing and what we could do and what would it look like in a trauma identified city like Baltimore. And then I had conversations with other people who had visions for Baltimore. And that led me into other people who were working in the decriminalization space and sat in front of the governor and watched him sign a bill this year that we were evaluating psychedelic assisted therapy and psilocybin in Maryland for the next 12 months. And then being able to go to Capitol Hill this summer and to be able to advocate for MDMA and to be able to share my story and to be able to sit down with congressmen and senators and their aides and be able to talk about this and to be able to watch history unfold as we have these conversations. But it's all really a reminder for me about the power of community and resilience and vision and seeing the things that Rick Doblin had gone through over the last 40, 50 years and the expansion of how MAPS and Lycos, once darlings, became almost vilified overnight by the FDA. His resilience has been so inspirational. They're all stepping stones that really we're all working toward creating lasting change. So for me, being able to connect with these like-minded people who keep asking, how do I help support your vision? It's nothing like I've ever experienced before. Thanks for listening to this episode of Neuma, the Crossroad of Science and Enlightenment. We hope you're enjoying the deep dive into psychedelics, neuroplasticity, and the path to transformation. Before we continue, let's discuss recovery. After powerful experiences, your mind deserves more than just rest. It needs real support. That's where Neuma Hydrate comes in. Formulated with GABA, taurine, inositol, magnesium, and more, Neuma Hydrate is designed to help your brain recover faster and support neuroplasticity, giving you the clarity and the energy to fully embrace your journey. Fuel your recovery and elevate your mind with Neuma Hydrate. Check out Neuma.health to learn more. Now, enjoy the rest of the episode. So for me, I remember walking out into the lobby of the Center Club after this event and seeing all of these people who just had this incredibly amazing conversation. And I remember looking over at Matt Zeman, who was one of my guests on this show, who has been so instrumental in really just imparting his wisdom. And I remember looking at him and saying, how did all of this happen? And then he looked me straight in the eye and he pointed and he said, you made this happen. You made the decision to put yourself here and to be able to have this conversation. And I drove home that night and I thought about what if this was it? What if this was what if the things that I had seen over the last 2 years of healing, transformation that I couldn't turn off anymore? What if I could take that and do something with it? You see, Neuma wasn't just an idea for me. It was a deeply personal response to my own journey of healing. Like so many of you listeners of the show, I was looking for answers as a veteran, as a COO and COO, as a trauma survivor, as somebody who looked at suicide as an option. I faced challenges that no amount of traditional success could ever fix. I've been able to work with so many others throughout this last 2 years that are walked similar paths. Friends or people that I've worked with who have had doctors for 20 years who all they've gotten were prescriptions and coping skills. Through psychedelic-assisted therapy, for me, I found my breakthrough. I found it when I needed it the most. But I discovered something else. I discovered this missing piece of how we recover and how we prepare and integrate and replenish after these experiences. I like to joke, I have an aura ring and I love to track data, and I watched my stress levels in an experience like go through the roof. And a lot of that realization led to me creating this hydrate product, this Neuma Hydrate, that was so focused on supporting neuroplasticity, something that nourished the mind and the body so that we could help sustain those changes that therapies create. And when I look back at these last 10 episodes of all of these incredible people we've had, people who've broken down science and neuroplasticity and the roles of healings and facilitators, sharing their wisdom and their experiences of these journeys, talking to others who have been cancer survivors, or talking about the business side of this, or incredible frontline first responders, or men who are anti-heroes. All of them have played a role in these first 10 segments. Each guest has brought this unique insight. For me personally, reminding me of the transformation, and it's not a solitary path. It's a journey that we're all on together, and that we need to remember that there are lots of ways to get up the mountain. There are so many paths, but at the end, we're all converging together. You know, I have been kind of thinking about what next year looks like and how we are going through this rebranding process and how the message has been kind of mixed and all over the place about what Neuma Hydrate is, what Neuma stands for, where are we going? And I wanted to just take a step back and think about that And I'm so glad that I did because in my experiences this year, I've been able to see the gift that we have given or have been given. And I'm so looking forward to introducing the fourth step in physical or psychedelic preparation and recovery. I always joke, and I was joking this morning at breakfast. Timothy Leary was a very interesting guy. We all know the story of Timothy Leary and his tune in and dropping out, and really kind of accrediting him to a lot of what we see in therapy today, where the intentions, the preparation work, the set and the setting, they're so important. This integration that we talk about of how do we take these experiences and we learn, but I think there's a fourth step that we've always missed. And no offense to Timothy Leary, I think science is showing us that it's not just the intention and the setting and the integration, but what happens next after you've had these incredible transformative experiences and your body and your brain need the support to solidify these changes. That's the fourth step. Replenishing the nutrients and the hydration that your body needs to sustain transformation. This is where Neuma Hydrate came in, and this is where it comes in. We looked at this, and I always love sharing the story because I had this idea when I was doing the work myself and seeing how exhausting it was with some of the people that had been going through similar journeys, and going down to DC and talking to some guys who were doing a lot of genetic work in PTSD with the Air Force and the Warfighter Brain Health Initiative, and sitting down with them and kind of sharing this idea, and them going back and doing the science and saying, we think that if we had these ingredients, it would do what we needed. Ingredients like magnesium and inositol and L-theanine and taurine and vitamins B3 and 5 and 6 and 12 and vitamin C. All of these things like vitamin B12 were needed to break the blood-brain barrier and in aid in that neurotransmitter production. As a ultra runner, I'm someone who is very familiar with electrolytes and stick packs and the popular ones that are out there right now. But this isn't just about hydration. Those things, when I was in my own experiences, were great for my body. They did nothing for my brain. They did nothing for the taxing feeling that I felt. And they didn't do anything for me beyond the day to support that neuroplasticity. So for us, it's not about hydration. It's about amplifying and maintaining the changes that you've worked so hard in those first three steps of intention and setting and integration, and adding this fundamental component to it. And for us, there's simple ways to be able to do that. There are three simple ways to incorporate the fourth step into the journey. You start hydrating early, 24 hours before the session. Continue that initially right after. I remember on my last psilocybin journey, I actually was taking Hydrate through the entire process. And I remember getting back up and looking for my water bottle and knowing that it was there. And then using targeted support, like choosing this for afterwards, doing the integration work with it, and then making it part of your morning ritual, using it for your mindfulness. As you're journaling every morning, I sip my Neuma, and I think about all of the changes that I've made throughout the year in my experiences with that journaling. So when I sit here and I look ahead and I celebrate this milestone of this 10th episode, I can't help but feel excited about what's next. Where do we go from here? We've been working with some amazing people and some rebranding to get this message out, to get it more focused. We're looking at more speaking events, being at PsyCon this year and being able to have a mega pastor fly up to hear me speak and to be able to talk about God and religion and psychedelics. Like, who would have thought that I would put myself here? As we celebrate this, we look at where can we go? How can we impact Maryland? How can we do more with veterans? How do we work with trauma? 25 is going to be just an incredible year where we're focusing on collaborations, creating partnerships with other aligned businesses who are in science and academic and facilitation. And how do we support frontline workers? The people who are really doing the hard work of connecting the minds. They're fostering those dialogues and they're building a brighter future for psychedelic therapy. There have been so many incredibly people along the way, and I know we're just getting started. So, to everyone who has listened, shared, supported this mission, thank you. Together, we're going to build something bigger than ourselves. I was talking to my dear friend again at breakfast this morning and sharing the vision of where we're going and how money was the last thing I was actually thinking about. And he smiled and he said, "That's why this is so beautiful, because you're mission focused first, knowing that the money will come as part of it." This is a movement grounded in science and enlightenment, but most importantly, healing. If this episode resonated with you, please subscribe, share it with someone who could benefit. Leave us a review. They're very important. I read them all, and I would love to respond. And if you're ready to take your recovery to the next level, go to Neuma.health. Check us out. Learn more about Hydrate. As we're closing in on 24 and we're getting ready for 25, here's to the next 10 episodes and beyond. So thank you. Till next time, take care of your mind, your body, and soul. I've got a lot of great guests lined up and recordings that have already happened. And I cannot wait to see you in the new year. Be well.